doing, everybody, and welcome in to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're coming back. It is a Tuesday night. I want to say fantastic. I want to say a fantastic Tuesday night, but that Brewer game got me a little bit down. That's the best thing I could say is down, right? I don't know, man. I mean, I'm watching this Brewer game. To start, I mean, we watched Freddie go out there. I watch all these hype videos leading up to it, right? They always get us the hype videos, and the hype videos had me ecstatic and thinking about this team. And just the feeling that I had with this team coming into the playoffs was just this was a different kind of team, right? They just felt like they weren't supposed to be where they were, yet here we are, right? Here we are. And then you get into the game, right? Freddie comes out. Freddie knocks the doors in, right? 3 strikeouts in a row to start the game. I'm feeling it then. I'm like, oh, yeah, here we go. I'm pumped up, right? Listening on the radio. I know no euchre on the radio or anything like that, but listening on the radio, getting excited, and then Brewers come up, bottom half of the first. They put some runs across, right? Now, this is where, again, the Brewers struggle to drive in runs, right? The Brewers start out this inning, Trage hits a double. Then Churrio singles to left. Then we see Contreras single, driving a run. We're like, okay, here we go, right? Nobody out. 3 guys already came to the plate, 3 hits in a row. Mitchell comes up. And when Mitchell came to the plate, I was sitting there and I was like, I really hope that Pat Murphy calls for a bunt. I really do. I hope Mitchell lays down a bunt here, advances those runners over, set the table for the rest of them guys. Mitchell comes up. Well, we saw the at-bat strikes out there. Then we see Adames walk. Bases loaded, 1 out. Here comes Jake Bauers. And my problem with Jake Bauers at bat, and first off, I'm not a huge fan of Jake Bauers. So I'm going to start this whole thing off with that there. I'm not a huge fan of Jake Bauers. But we see Jake Bauers step to the plate. And after watching Adames walk on 4 straight, comes up plate, swings first pitch, pops out to the catcher. Drives me nuts. It absolutely drives me nuts when I see a guy, after a guy walks on 4 straight, the next guy steps up and swings away first pitch. Bauers is not that kind of guy. He's not that kind of hitter where he's going to be stepping up there and I want him free swinging. Not even a chance. So Bauers pops out to the catcher. Hoskins gets hit by a pitch, at least get another run there. And then we see Frelick ground out there, end the inning, right? You got 2-0. 2-0 there. And then Freddie got into trouble. And then this is what Freddie does. Freddie does this. It seems like it's his job to get himself into trouble. Gets himself into trouble. He has that 1 blow-up inning. Gives up 3 runs there. 3-2. You're not sitting there feeling like the Brewers are out of it. It's 3-2. The crowd's still into it. Everything's still good in that sense, right? And the game keeps going. Brewers finally battle back, right? They battle back, take the lead there in the 4th, bottom of the 4th, take the lead. Then came that 5th. And the 5th is where I really want to get into this, right? I really want to get into this because the 5th inning, we all watched. It was the end of the game, basically, for the Brewers. They got sucker punched, right? There's no other way to say it than the Brewers got sucker punched, and they didn't have an answer. They got sucker punched that inning. First, Churrio goes back, robs. It could have been a home run, probably off the wall, whatever it was. Robs Marte. And it was like, oh yeah, you're pumped. You're pumped. Then Tyrone Taylor steps to the plate. Lines went out to left. Churrio, bad play, misplayed it, right? He's young, misplays that ball, goes over top of his head. And then it's like the floodgates open for the Brewers. The floodgates open. And, when Payam originally came in, I was worried because I am not a huge Yoel. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to keep telling you guys this, but I'm not a huge fan of some of these guys on the Brewers roster to begin with. But Yoel Payam is in there, right? And Payam, that ball to Hoskins. Now, I don't know if it was just me, but that ball to Hoskins makes a great play. I thought it was a great play. Makes a great play. And makes that play, and it just seemed to me like Payam was jogging to the bag. It just seems like he's jogging, like he forgot that he was supposed to be covering first base there for a second, and then all of a sudden, it's a close play. Iglesias ends up diving for it. Payam catches it and is late to the bag. Now there's a play at the plate. Didn't get the stroll. Didn't even make the stroll to the plate, right? Tyrone Taylor comes in and scores, and then it's basically over at that point. So that Yoel Payam situation. Then Aaron Ashby comes in, right? And Ashby comes in, and it is just a disaster. And a lot of people blaming it on Ashby, and I get it. You want to blame Ashby. You do you in that situation, right? But there was a way out of that inning, right? Churrio makes that play and left. I'm not going to blame Churrio for misplaying. That was a hard hit ball. It's hard to judge a liner, right? It's very hard, but makes that play. They're not in that situation. Yoel Payam realizes that he's a pitcher and he has to cover the bag, takes off for the bag. Okay, now we're talking about this in a different sense too. There was a lot of things in that fifth inning that could have changed the tide even before Aaron Ashby came in. And then you think back to the point, and this is where I was having a conversation with my wife's dad. Him and we always go back and forth during the Brewer games and everything that's wrong, everything that's right with baseball, Brewers, everything in between. And we're talking, and you came down to the point of why is Yoel Payam in? Why are we throwing Yoel Payam, right? It just didn't make sense. Why is Yoel Payam in this situation? You pulled Freddie after 68 pitches. So you pull Freddie out there in that fifth inning. He goes 68 pitches. Now, I get the factor of we don't want this guy to go, we don't want him to see the third time through the order. Okay, that's fine. But before that, Freddie had retired, I believe it was like 9 in a row. So Freddie retires 9 in a row. You're feeling good about Freddie at this point, right? Besides that blow-up inning, because he had a blow-up inning there in that top of the second. That was his blow-up inning, right? Gave up the 3 runs. Outside of that, Freddie did not pitch a terrible game, right? His pitch count was high, 68. Why, if you're in this quick 3-game set, why are you so worried about getting Freddie out of there, right? Freddie, I thought he was settling into the game. That's my opinion on it. I thought he was settling into that game. So when you pull Freddie out, now you got to extend your bullpen out, okay? So we use Payam. I don't understand in that situation. Maybe you go to Ashby right away, right? Yeah, I don't understand the Yoel Payam's usage. I really don't. He has had an up and down season and to me, I don't think Yoel Payam deserved to be on the roster for the playoffs. I really don't. I really don't. Honestly, you look at that inning. What told you that you couldn't have thrown a guy like Jared Koenig, right, in that situation? What told you couldn't have thrown a guy like Savali out there in that situation to try and extend the game? I wouldn't have thrown Joe Ross. I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't have thrown Joe Ross. But you had options in that bullpen outside of Payam. He's a guy that he goes out there and you just hope and you pray and you're like, please just get me through this inning. And 9 times out of 10, he struggles, right? 9 times out of 10, he struggles. So that pitching decision, I'm not here telling you, I've seen a lot of people where they're like, Pat Murphy is managing this game like Craig Counsell and Pat Murphy this and Pat Murphy that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Pat Murphy's the worst thing and everything like that, because that's what I see a lot of Brewer fans, they automatically jump to those kinds of conclusions. But what I'm going to say is in that situation, I didn't understand it. I really did. And you see these guys who made the postseason roster. Brian Hudson, they left him off, right? And the only explanation that I could only come up with was, or what I heard was that they said it was because of the amount of righties that the amount of righties that they were going to be thrown out there. Yeah, the amount of righties that the Mets had in their lineup. Okay. So you look at Brian Hudson's stats, and righties are batting below 200 against him. So even the analytics tell you that Brian Hudson was not a bad option. So give me another excuse, right? Give me another excuse for that. I don't get it. Brian Hudson was one of those kinds of inning guys for you, right? So I look at this. I look at the situation. I don't think Yoel Payam should have been on there, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of his. Haven't been, right? I don't know. I'm just a Brewer fan right now who's just yelling at the screen, yelling at everything right now, because I am just lost with this team. Watching them out there, it's like the fight was there, but they couldn't find ways to drive in runs once again. And the pitching just blew up. And you look at the pitching and you say to yourself, okay, this bullpen was good all season long, but what happened, right? We got to the point where we needed our bullpen and it just imploded on us all at once. Now, this Mets team coming into this, they've been hot in the month of September, and they were hot in that. Look at their offense against the Braves in game 1 of that doubleheader. I don't count game 2 because, the Mets didn't care. The Mets didn't care at that point, right? But I look at the Mets in game 1 of that, and I look at the Mets before that, and this is a team that was heating up. They were slowly heating up coming into this series against the Brewers, and the Brewers just didn't have the answer in this game. They did not have the answer in this game for the Mets. They rallied, and the Brewers weren't able to rally back, even push across. Brewers couldn't even get a hit after that inning. I mean, the Brewers could not get a hit. They got sucker punched. It was like Stone Cold came out there and gave them the stunner, and they were just done. They were done. The match was over, right? And, I mean, it sucks. It sucks because you look at the tide of that game, and Brewer fans were into it, but they were out of it. I mean, you look at American Family Field, it got quiet. You listen to the start of that game. I mean, I started out listening to that game on the radio as I was getting feed for the cows, everything like that, and started listening to it on the radio. And you couldn't even hear the radio announcers. It was so loud in American Family Field after that first inning, and it was just buzzing, right? And then the blow up. And, the fans were still into it. But you got, after that big inning, after that fifth inning, it was done. It was done. Brewer fans were checked out. I wouldn't say the players were checked out, but I don't know. And now you look at the statistics, right? 14 of 16 teams to win game one have won the series in the wild card since 2020. So the odds are stacked against the Brew Crew once again. The odds were stacked against them all season long, right? It's from the start of it. From spring training on, the odds were stacked against this Brewers team. I'm here telling you, I've been in arguments on Facebook about this already after the game. There's a lot of fans out there who are throwing in the towel. We're done, right? This is a team that, we had faith in them. This is a classic Brewers team. That's the big thing I'm seeing right now. It's a classic Brewers collapse, everything like that. And I'm hoping you guys are all wrong. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm hoping you guys are all wrong out there because I've been optimistic about this team all season long, and I'm gonna continue it. Game 2 is survive and get to game 3, right? You got to. You don't really have a choice, right? Survive game 2, get to game 3. You're gonna have Tobias Myers in game 3 because Frankie Montas is set to start game 2. You're gonna have to take on Manaea, who you just faced recently, but he's been good this year. You're going to get into this game, and, man, I mean, you're going to have to battle. It's a fight. It's a fight, man. And this Brewers team all season long has fought. They have fought tooth and nail for every win that they've had, right? This isn't you look at this roster, and if you were sitting there saying to yourself that this Brewers team was going to go into a playoff series, into a wild card series, and they were just going to blow teams out of the water, I don't think so. I really don't. This isn't a team that they don't have the Phillies lineup. They don't have the Yankees or the Dodgers lineup, right? I like this lineup. I'm not gonna lie. Outside of, I would not put Jake Bauers in there. I would have. I mean, yes, I saw a lot of people. Who are you going to put in there instead of DH? Who are you going to put in there? I'm going to be honest with you. Eric Hayes, Gary Sanchez. I don't like Gary Sanchez that much, but I would have thrown Gary Sanchez in there. I mean, I'm just not a huge fan of Jake Bauers there in the lineup. I'm not. And if you're trying to roll with this, having lefties in there against Severino, okay, fine and dandy. But I'm not sold on the Jake Bauer. Honestly, it's Rowdy Tellez 2.0 for me sometimes. You get a home run every once in a while. You get a hit every once in a while. Outside of that, it's not impressive. Not impressive. And he's not meant to be impressive. That's the thing, is he's not meant to be impressive. But I just feel like I look at the bats on the bench for the Brewers, and there's 2 guys on that bench that I would throw in there. I would throw Eric Hayes in there because he has played a good year. He has had a good season for the Brewers as a pinch hitter usually, right? But in the lineup at times, he has had a good year. So I hate shooting down Eric Hayes and guys like that simply because we want a lefty or simply because we think Jake Bauers is going to come through every once in a while, because he has not proven to me that he can. So I'm Pat Murphy's going to draw up the lineups. It's not my job. I'm not an armchair coach here telling you this is how it's got to be, but that's my opinion on it. And that's what I stick with there. So, I mean, it's do or die game 2, right? Do or die game 2 coming up here tomorrow. And, well, yeah, we're going to see what the Brewers got, right? They got to fight for it now. They got to fight for game 3. Get it to game 3. If you get this series to game 3 at American Family Field with this team that has the amount of energy that they do when they're feeling it, I feel comfortable again. I do. I do. I feel comfortable in a game 3. I'm going to be honest. I feel comfortable. You got to be able to get your bullpen arms into place, though. You got to be able to get Koenig in there. You got to be able to get Trevor McGill, Devin Williams. You got to be able to roll them guys out in game 2. You got to have a good outing from Frankie Montas, right? Because if you don't get a good outing from Frankie Montas and you got to go to the bullpen early, who do you go to? Who do you go to? DL Hall? I mean, I want to trust DL Hall, but at the same time, he's not like he's this strikeout guy either. There's a lot of inning eaters down in that bullpen, but the question is, are they out getters, right? And that's what we're going to find out. That's what we're going to find out in game 2 here. Hopefully a good outing from Frankie Montas, though. I mean, they need it. They desperately need their starter to be able to go extra innings there because, I mean, Freddie got you through 4. That's it. And, honestly, coming into this series, Freddie is classified as the ace of the staff, but Freddie's not an ace. I have never said from day one that Freddie was an ace of the staff. Freddie is a number 3. He's a number 2. He's that kind of guy for you. He's not that number 1. He's not. And what he gave you in game 1, I know a lot of people want to hate on it, but that's Freddie. That's Freddie, and that's what I expected. But a 3 runs that he gave up in that game, that did not lose the Brewers this game because the Brewers, 3 runs, I mean, you got to be able to come back from 3 runs. In today's day and age of baseball, there's not a lot of pitcher duels, right? There's not a lot of low-scoring games anymore. You got to be able to score runs. And the Brewers, they weren't able to muster it back. After the bullpen imploded a little bit there in the 5th, they weren't able to figure it out. So, Brewers, Mets continue the series tomorrow. Hopefully we see a good outing from Frankie Montas. Hopefully the next time we are coming on, we are talking about the Brewers extending their playoff hopes. We might get on tomorrow night. If the Brewers do extend this series out to game 3, we might get on tomorrow night, talk about it a little bit, talk about game 2, talk about game 3, and see what we're thinking. But right now, Brewer fans, they're heartbroken. And rightfully so, because now everybody's on edge in the state of Wisconsin because we felt, I mean, honestly, I came into this series against the Mets and I said to myself, I am glad we have the Mets. I'm glad we did not get the Diamondbacks in a series. I didn't know about the Braves. I was glad we had the Mets. We just watched the Brewers take 2 or 3 from the Mets. I was comfortable. I was comfortable with playing the Mets. And now it's like, man, the Mets, they're not so bad. They found ways. There. And Jesse Winker, I mean, he can't hit for the Brewers in the postseason, but he got to hit for the Mets. So great, right? I think that's what Willie Adames must have told Jesse Winker when he was arguing with him from short to third there. Well, after he hit that triple, he must have said, like, dude, why couldn't you do that in the postseason for us? You can hit for them. Like, I don't know. That's what I would have told him. That's what I would have told him if I was there. So, I mean, man, oh man. Oh, I'm just praying for a game 3. Because I cannot handle another season of having to do a Brewers wrap-up after the wild card series. I can't do it. I can't. It's rough. It's rough having to do it every single season. And, for the Mets fans out there, you might be excited because every team that has beat the Brewers in the playoffs, if I'm right with my statistic, every team that has beat the Brewers in the playoffs has gone on to the World Series or won the World Series since like 1982 or something like that. I mean, it's been a long time. So that's a stat that I think I heard out there. And if that's a true stat, Met fans, if you pull this one off, fantastic. You're going to the World Series. Now, I hope that's not the truth, right? I hope the Brewers find a way, win game 2, force game 3, win that game 3, and then we move on. We take on the Phillies, and all is good with the world once again. But there is a bat's got to get going here in game 2, and we got to see a good outing from Frankie Montas, and hopefully we do here. So, Brewers, that's about all we got with the Brewers for the day here. Just wanted to get into a little bit of Packers. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter, we got a midweek report here, so a little bit of shorter talk today here. Packers, they have a couple kickers in practice this week here trying out. Well, just getting a little bit of a workout there. I believe not McManus. I saw a lot of people hoping that one of them was going to be McManus there, but not McManus. They had Chad Ryland and Lucas Havrisik. I don't even know. That's a confusing last name. I hope they don't sign him because I could not say his last name. But they got a couple kickers in the camp. That tells you, or in practice, that tells you that they're not fully with Narveson yet. They're still feeling a little bit uncomfortable yet with Narveson. And, Packer fans, you didn't like Mason Crosby. I see a lot of fans now. They're all talking about Mason Crosby. He's still out there somewhere. We should go look at Mason Crosby, this and that. And it's like, do you really want Mason Crosby back? I mean, at this point, if he could hit from inside of 50 and he could hit those extra points for me, is Mason Crosby the worst answer in the world? Probably not. Probably not. But a lot of Packer fans complained about that. Oh, his leg's not good enough. Oh, this and that. It's the same Packer fans who want Mason Crosby back now. So you get what you get, right? We can find quarterbacks left and right, but right now we can't figure out a kicker. Right now we can't find a kicker. They're a diamond in a dozen, right? Kickers they say they're dispensable, but until you don't have one, right? Until you don't have one. And right now the Packers are struggling because they had Anders Carlson. He's still out there in free agency, but I don't want Anders Carlson back. You don't want to go back to that, right? I saw people talking about going back to that. You don't want to go back to that. And you look at Greg Joseph. He's kicking over there with the Giants now, I believe. You see him get a little gig there, but you didn't want to stick with Greg Joseph either. So what do you do now? What do you do now? Except for if you make a trade or you find a diamond in the dozen kicker out there, you're with Narveson right now. You stuck out your guns with Narveson. You got to ride the tide now. We'll see what happens, right? I don't want to sit here and say that we need to completely give up on Narveson, but at some point, like I've said it multiple times, missed kicks will come back to bite you. We saw it in the Vikings game. Now, I'm not going to say that game was completely on Narveson, but we saw a couple misses there. We saw a couple misses earlier in the season. He's not consistent. He's not consistent. You're going to have that with kickers, but it's going to be, can he find the consistency from short range? And if he misses a couple from 55 to 60, okay, you get over that. But it's when it's from 45. It's when it's from 35. That's when you start to get nervous. So right now, Packer fans on edge with the kicker situation. We'll see what happens there. They're working out kickers. I don't see them making a move quite yet. I didn't hear anything about these kickers coming out of those workouts, but we'll wait and see. We're going to wait and see with that kicking situation there in Green Bay. Also, we talked about a little bit about Jordan Love there and about how at halftime some of the announcers or analysts were saying that they didn't believe Jordan Love should have been out there for that game against the Vikings, this and that. I believe Jordan Love should have played. He felt like he was ready to go. Packers felt like he was ready to go. It was okay getting him back in there. He had some rust, right? And it's expected. You played week 1. You sat out after that. You didn't really play in the preseason. So honestly, week 1 was like week 1 of the preseason all over again, right? And then you get to where we're at now, right? And this is technically the Vikings were your second game of the preseason, right? So you had 2 games in. You're going to have a little bit of rust. Now you sat out a little bit with an injury. Now that's still nagging you. So it makes it tougher on you, right? It makes it tougher on you in that situation. So Love has a little bit of rust, right? And we talked about it a little bit there on Sunday. Kind of, I wouldn't say overreacted to the situation, but kind of talked through that situation there with Jordan Love. And that's what I came down to there. Jordan Love had rust. I feel comfortable. Keep it, rolling forward here, not really worrying about what we're going to get out of him moving forward here. It was rust. It was not on the same page with receivers at times. You're going to work through that, right? I really do believe that the Packers played their worst half of football against the Vikings. I really do. I think that was the worst half that we will see out of this Packers team for the rest of this. I really do for the rest of this year, But I think so. I think that was the worst half of football we could see. This team will bounce back. They'll be fine. They'll move on. It'll be all good. Jordan Love, a little bit of rust knock off. Spray some WD-40 on that. You'll be good to go, right? He's good to go. He's good to go. It'll be all smooth sailing from here is what we're going to tell ourselves, right? That's what you got to do. And another thing on the Packer front that I've been seeing around social media, and that was the lack of big plays, anything like that, out of the defensive front for the Green Bay Packers. Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, Lucas Van Ness, a lot of them guys. A lot of people have been talking about the defensive front for Green Bay and the lack of production coming from that room. Is it time to worry? I want to say no. But I got to see it, right? We saw it against the Titans, but it's hard to count the Titans because that is a dismantled offensive line for the Tennessee Titans. They have struggled this season. So the Packers defensive front looked good there. But when they got into a game against the Vikings, they weren't able to put that kind of pressure on Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold was able to get out of the pocket, make things happen. He was able to make his throws. He was able to do everything that he wanted to do, right? So it makes you worry then, okay, so where do you got to reevaluate? How do you got to do this? Is it the scheming of what Hafley's running there? Do we need to send more? What needs to happen to try and get Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark in the action a little bit more there? And part of it is Rashawn Gary, watching him coming off blocks right now, I just don't feel like he's been getting that same kind of movement right now. It doesn't seem like he's got the fire right now, and it doesn't seem like he's getting around blocks like the guy that we saw where he had a breakout year, right? So that's my first worry when I look at a guy like that. Kenny Clark, I feel like he's going to be fine, right? I feel like he's going to be fine up the middle there. Devontae Wyatt has played better. Devontae Wyatt, I thought, has actually played way better there on the defensive front. He got injured. Hopefully, we haven't heard anything out of that injury, but hopefully everything checks out with Devontae Wyatt there. But Wyatt has played well, and I actually love what I've seen out of him. Lucas Van Ness, I don't know if he's had time to develop right. I don't know. I don't want to call him a bust. I hate calling people busts, but he's another guy, right? You got to see it out of Lucas Van Ness before you start telling yourself this guy has I saw it in the preseason, right? I saw it in the preseason where I was like, this guy's got some potential. This guy's got some potential to have a breakout year. And then I'm watching it here during the season, and it's like the stats, everything like that, they aren't adding up for Lucas Van Ness right now. So where's that fine line? Where's that middle ground right now? And I haven't seen it yet. So Lucas Van Ness, I don't want to call him a bust, but right now you're watching him. It's like you got to see it out of this guy before you even think about a bigger contract. You even think about extending this guy. You got to really consider this one here. So lots of things to discuss there on the weekend preview show before we get into that Rams matchup there. But that's one of the talking points all over social media right now is the lack of production coming from that defensive front down there in Green Bay. Outside of that, a little bit of Badger tidbit for the day here. And we kind of lost it after the weekend there about the Badgers, about Luke Fickell and this coaching staff and the direction of this Badger program and how everything was going wrong. And, we kind of lost it. I shouldn't say we lost it. I lost it. And, I thought rightfully so. I watched this Badger team take on USC. I watched them with an impressive first half, and then I watched the second half, and it was just terrible. So where does this Badger team go moving forward? The big thing that what I'm missing, right? I understand everybody out there who tells me it's only year two. Everybody who tells me it's only year two. Okay, I get that. It's year two. I'm not expecting the Badgers to go win a national championship. Heck, I'm not even expecting the Badgers to go win the Big Ten championship. What I looked at this Badger team and said was, I want to see this Badger team improve week after week. I wanted to see this Badger team look like they had a direction, and this coaching staff had a direction of what they were pushing for, what this coaching staff was looking for in the future. And right now, when I watch this Badger team, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the direction that they're trying. I'm not seeing a direction. I'm not seeing a good direction, right? Are we, we talk about this rebuilding, and Paul Chryst and Jim Leonard left this program in shambles, and Luke Fickell's got to come in and rebuild it. Okay, that's fine. He's got to rebuild it. I don't know how bad it was, right? Was it in shambles that we could fix it in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What is it, right? But when I look at this team, I don't know if they're building a ship or if they're sinking a ship, right? There's two different things there. Is this Badger team moving towards something, right? We had all these quarterbacks in this room, and it was talk about, developing quarterbacks, and we were going to become this quarterback development, program where Brandon Locke was going to come in and Nick Evers was going to come in, and we had Tanner Mordecai and we had Tyler Van Dyke, and we were going to keep bringing in these quarterbacks and keep building them up to get ready to go, and then it was just going to look great. That's the impression that we all got, right? This quarterback carousel. I don't think, I talked about it the other day, I don't think Braden Locke has gotten better in Madison. I don't, personally. I don't think he's gotten better. So there's where I look at the improvement. I look at where this Badger team is going to, where they're heading in a direction, is the improvement of players and the progression of these players. I don't think they've gotten better. Bryson Green came to Madison with the hopes of an air raid offense where you were going to utilize his talent for a deep ball and a guy to bail you out because he's got a 6'4" body and he weighs about, I believe it's about 200 some pounds. It's a big dude, right? A big dude at wide receiver. And he came to Madison, and it's like we're not utilizing his talents of what I believe he could do. Vinny Anthony, my worry is Vinny Anthony's got burner speed, right? And we saw it there against USC on that second drive. I believe it was the second drive or first drive might have been the first drive from the Badgers there, that they ended up housing it there. Vinny Anthony for 60-some yard touchdown passer from Braden Locke. And I was like, we're utilizing Vinny Anthony's strength, speed, burning by guys one-on-one, man-to-man coverage, burning by him, making things happen, right? Will Pauling, I expected him to have a breakout year. So far, not treading in that direction for me. So I look at all these guys. I look at these guys in Madison right now, and I'm trying to see the progression. I'm trying to see the direction that this program's heading, and I don't see it. And if you ask me right now, truthfully, if I see this Badger team heading in a direction that I feel like it should be in year 2, I would tell you I don't see it yet. I don't. And the comment that I always get is, well, it's only year 2, right? Next year's when we can judge. Next year's when we can judge. Are you going to tell me that in year 3 too? That's my question. Are you going to tell me that year 3 that, we just got to wait until year 4? Year 4, that's when we're going to see, Luke Fickell's going to finally have all of his guys in there. He's going to have all his guys. And then when he has his guys, then we'll be fine. Then we'll be fine. I don't want to hear that excuse. I want to see players progressing inside of a program. I want to see guys building towards something. I want to see a program build towards something. Not like we're building towards becoming the doormat of the Big Ten. Because right now, we are basically the doormat of the Big Ten. I didn't think that this Badger program could drop this far. I didn't. I did not see this Badger program as a team that I'm going to look at. I mean, I see a lot of people talking, and they're like, this Badger team's going to have 3 wins this year. They're going to have 4 wins this year. I honestly, in my pre-season projection for this Badger team, I was like 9 wins. I was sitting at 9 wins. I was sitting at 8, 9, 10 wins, right? Looking at the schedule, looking at this team, I was like, they could finish in that grouping if they find a way. They haven't found a way. Doesn't help Tyler Van Dyke gets hurt. It does not help. I'm not going to say that, there hasn't been injuries or anything that have hurt this team, because you lose Thompson Jr. on the defensive line. You lose Tyler Van Dyke in that quarterback room. You're going to take a step backwards. But I watch this team, and week after week, I just look for something that is impressing me, or that it looks like they're getting better in. Pass rush, I think their pass rush has been getting a little bit better. I think they're putting more pressure on quarterbacks. So that's good, right? They're progressing in that. But I look at the offense then, and I'm like, what is Phil Longo doing? Right? What's the play calling? I don't understand his play calling, right? We can talk about the fourth and 1 calls until we're blue in the face because we don't understand them. We don't. So I blew up about the Badgers on the last show, on the last live there on Sunday. And I'm sitting here and I'm still thinking the same thing right now. They have Purdue coming up, right? This game with Purdue. Purdue was at one point the doormat of the conference. Now the Badgers they got to show me, if you go into this game against Purdue, and Purdue, this is going to tell us a lot, right? This is going to tell us a lot about the Badgers, because if you play Purdue at Camp Randall Stadium, and Purdue walks in there, and it is a ball game, and they hold you, and this is just one of those, not a good game at all. Your offense can't find its rhythm, and your defense is struggling to slow down Purdue's running game, and it just looks like garbage. I think you're closer to the bottom than you are to the middle. And that's going to tell us a lot about this Badger program. So I think this game against Purdue, we're going to get more into it on the weekend preview show coming up on Friday. But this Purdue game is going to show us a lot. It is going to tell us a lot about this Badger team and the direction that they're heading, and if it's the right direction, if changes need to be made. I'm not saying, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying go fire Luke Fickell. I'm not saying that. But I'm looking at the offensive coordinator. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at defense, and I'm saying, are these coordinators the right fit for what Fickell wants to do? I don't care what McIntosh wants Fickell to do. I don't care. I know he probably has to, but I don't care. If Fickell is a good coach, which I want to say that he is, I do, then I'm looking at him and I'm saying, do you trust your coordinators to be able to do what you need to do? Do you trust your coordinators to win you football games? And if you don't, then those guys need to go. And we need to find other guys to fill those spots. I don't care if Phil Longo, if you got this new air raid system and you think that some of these or recruits or whatever it is might not come here if Phil Longo's not here. Because if this program keeps heading in this direction, you're not going to get those recruits to come in because they're looking at the talent that you have and the guys that you have, and they're saying, I'm not going to be utilizing the system. So how is this Badger team going to benefit me to move forward or get to the NFL or whatever it is? How are they going to benefit me in that way? So there's a lot of question marks right now with the Wisconsin Badgers, and it's a wait and see, right? It's a wait and see. We're going to get more into the Badgers on the weekend preview show. We're going to get more into the Packers there. Hopefully we got Brewers to talk about. Like I said, a little bit shorter episode today, but hopefully we're talking about a Brewers win. If the Brewers win, I'm going to hop on tomorrow night, live show, probably a little bit of a shorter one, and get into the Brewers a little bit there. If they don't, well, then I'm going to save the heartbreak talk for the Friday show or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it right away if they lose game 2. So we got lots to talk about. On the weekend preview show. Aaron should be back for that one there. We'll talk about the upcoming games of the weekend there, Packers, Badgers, everywhere around the sporting world, whatever's happening, MLB playoffs. We'll get into it all on Friday there. So with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your night and Wednesday. But until I talk to you guys again on Friday, see ya.